I'm State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy, here today to announce the sentencing of former Corporal Daryl Wormuth. He was sentenced by a circuit court judge to 45 days in jail for the crimes that he committed against our victim, Kayvon Hines, who you'll hear from shortly. But let me tell you, this case is much more than about an assault by a Prince George's County, or now former Prince George's County police officer. This case was really about the rights of all of our citizens and residents to be treated fairly, to be treated equally, and to not have excessive force used against them. I can tell you, on the night of this incident, our victim was doing nothing wrong. Not one thing. He was enjoying time with his friends, playing a little ball, like so many of our young people do. When Corporal Wormuth singled him out and wanted to have a conversation with him, which he did not want to have, which is his right. He didn't have to have a conversation. There was no reason to detain Mr. Hines that night. Mr. Hines ran away because he knew he wasn't doing anything wrong, and he didn't want to have an interaction. So Corporal Wormuth, instead of letting it go, he decides to get two other officers to chase him down. When those officers caught up with him, he was completely compliant. He then he was in handcuffs. He was strolling along with the other officers back down to where the patrol cars were located. And again, he was completely compliant. In fact, only one officer had his hand on his elbow, near his elbow area, really to guide him. Not because he was flailing around, not because he was acting aggressively, just to guide him in where he wanted him to walk. But that also wasn't good enough for Corporal Wormuth. He then walked up aggressively to this young man and with his open palm struck him in his throat. The type of damage that could have resulted in is kind of unimaginable at this point. We are grateful that the injuries that were suffered by our victim were not permanent, at least not physically. But mentally and emotionally, this incident will stay with this young man for the rest of his life. And not that it matters, but I think it's important to note that our victim, a truly innocent victim, had no prior contacts with the law, and the only contacts he wishes to have in the future are positive ones. I personally am encouraged by this young man, because instead of him being bitter, instead of him just not wanting to be a part of this process and thinking that, he wouldn't get justice, he stood firm. I've had a chance to meet his family. His parents are amazing. They raised a very awesome young man. And my hope for him is that he will have other interactions with law enforcement that are more positive than the one he had that night. I can also tell you that the officers who reported this incident are to be commended and supported by their department. Unfortunately, what we see far too often, and even in this case, are good officers who meet the expectations of the community and the standards of their department by reporting crimes that are committed even against other officers, not being supported by their department. So my hope is that in this case, we can turn a corner on that reality. One of the officers who testified in this case no longer works for Prince George's County Police Department. And while I haven't gone into detail with him about why he left, the timing of his departure says it all. My hope is that we can get good officers like him to come back to this department, because this department needs officers who will stand up for everyone in this community against anyone who commits a crime against them, even a fellow officer. So Prince George's County, we have a lot of work to do. I look forward to working with our county executive, our county council, and other members of our elected bodies and our community to continue to work to reform this department and others throughout our community. Because the message that has been sent from my office is clear. We are not going to tolerate, accept, or protect officers who do the wrong thing. We are also going to expose those officers who are racist, who are biased against our residents, and have conducted themselves outside of their general orders. That is the duty of the state's attorney's office, and it is my duty as the top law enforcement officer in this county. So I look forward to any questions that you might have, but before I go on, I would like to introduce you to my hero, our victim in this case, but really truly a survivor, Mr. Kayvon Hines.
Could you spell your name for us, please?
Kayvon Hines. And I would just like to say, I'm glad to finally speak up for all the things that police be doing under the sun and finally bring the dark to the light. And I'm just glad that I could speak about it. And for like other people that been through it, that it is justice out here and it is a way to make things right instead of just going about it your own way. And I would just like to say thank you for the team, my mother, my parent, because they the ones that gave me the confidence to even come and push through this whole trial. And I would just like to say thank y'all.
How old are you now?
I'm 20 now.
20 now.
Yes.
How has the last few years been for you?
Honestly, I was afraid to go outside because everybody know everybody in the system. So I was just afraid just even to go up the street or go to the store. It took me a minute. My mother had to help me through it, and yeah.
As African Americans, a lot of our moms sit down with us and have that conversation about encountering police. Has your parent had that conversation with you? And if they did, what was it like still being put in that situation if you did the right thing?
Honestly, we had conversations before because they told me what to do. So in that situation, after that, before I've been arrested, I knew to show that I'm not going against them and just showing that I'm cooperating and I'm not doing anything to be a problem.
Do you feel like 45 days is enough?
Honestly, no, but I'm just glad that it finally we got justice. That he know how it feels to be in handcuffs and how it feel to be arrested. So honestly, I'm okay with it, but it is what it is, and I'm okay with it.
So what do you plan to do with your life now?
Honestly, I want to be a PE teacher, but I'm about to work with Brave Boy U to be like an attorney here.
Any message to any
Thank you.
family members or people who have gone through a similar situation or are still waiting justice?
Yes, because they didn't speak up about it. They just let it go. But I'm here to say you can speak up about it, and it's something can happen about it. Thank you.
I would like you to meet two of our brave and amazing prosecutors who handled this case, Joel Patterson and also Cerrone Anderson. I thought it was important to hear from individuals who've handled several cases in this courthouse and have been very successful, but I think this case hit a little different. And I wanted them to give you their perspective on what happened here and the sentence. So, who wants to go first?
Hello. We're obviously here today because the judge has rendered the sentence in this case, and I think her words are a really important takeaway here. When she spoke out, she addressed that officer and let him know that that conduct was not appropriate, that his motivation for the conduct was inappropriate, that we will not tolerate in Prince George's County this sort of biased policing. We will look out for all of our citizens regardless of who is committing a crime, regardless of who is at fault here. We will seek justice for everyone.
Can we get your name?
Yeah, I'm Joel, Joel, last name is Patterson.
Title?
I am the chief of the Public Integrity Unit at the State's Attorney's Office.
You spell Patterson.
Patterson.
I'm Cerrone Anderson. I'm the Assistant Division Chief of the Special Victims Unit. And kind of just to reiterate what was already said, this is just a message to the community that, you know, when they're doing the right thing, this administration, Ms. Braveboy, is going to stand up and we're going to fight for justice. And we believe that justice was served here today.
How do you prepare for a case like this?
How to prepare? Well,
How do you prepare?
Basically meeting with the victims, preparing them for what they're going to have to testify to, elements of the case. And so it, from a, you know, as being a black African American male, and the content of the text message that came out, initially it was difficult for me, but just knowing the support system that we have and knowing that we don't need officers on the street that have this type of mentality is what gave me the, you know, the strength to push through. And also, you know, speaking with the victims in this case, knowing, you know, what they stood for, it gave me the, you know, the passion or so to really make sure that justice was really brought about in this case.
I did want to just mention one thing that has aided us in seeking justice and getting justice for so many of our victims in this county is that one of the decisions I made back in 2020 was to employ an independent use of force consultant. I think that was key in this case, in that the county's use of force consultant actually testified on behalf of the defendant in this case. So having someone who is well qualified and trained in what use of force should look like and what is acceptable, and someone who has a independence from the department that they are reviewing, I think is critically important. So I want to thank Dr. Tyrone Powers for the work he did and for assisting us in achieving justice in this case as he has in other cases. So if there are any additional questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
Yes, from what I understand, prosecutors wanted a year and requested a year in jail for him. If you could address that.
Sure.
45 days. And regarding the text messages, some of those remarks, from what we understand, were racist, disparaging to people of this community.
Yes, so the text messages that were exposed during the sentencing phase of this trial were important in that we got to the mentality of the individual who committed this offense against an innocent, unarmed, handcuffed, young black teenager at the time here in Prince George's County. So those text messages were vile. In fact, I had not, in my time here as state's attorney, and I can probably vouch for most of us, that we had never been to a sentencing where, because of the information that came out during the sentencing hearing, that the judge could not fairly render a sentence. So that's how disgusting these text messages are. And it's very disheartening because it wasn't just one individual on the department sending the text messages. He was in chat groups with other former and current Prince George's County police officers. And so it is very concerning. We have been able to identify individuals who are objectively racist, who we can prove are racist. We have added those individuals to our do not call list so that they are not on the streets. They are not testifying in our courtrooms. We sent a very strong message, and we set the standard on that, because there was, under no circumstances were we going to allow racist officers to testify on behalf of the state. So the sentence he got, we believed was not enough time. Obviously, we asked for more. We thought that a sentence above guidelines in this case was appropriate, not only because of the bias, but mainly because of the action. The damage that the action taken by Corporal Wormuth could have caused to this young man. He could have had permanent injuries based on the amount of force and where he struck the individual. Not in the arm, not in the shoulder, but in the neck. So he was also handcuffed. So we have someone who was handcuffed, completely compliant, other officers around. So the only officer that night who acted inappropriately was the officer who was tried, convicted, and now sentenced. And we believe that a sentence above guidelines was appropriate. However, the judge chose to sentence him within guidelines, which is her right, and so we respect her decision.
Was he taken away today, or
Yeah.
is he going to report back?
I wasn't in there at the end.
He was stepped back. He will continue to be a member of the Department of Corrections until they release him. So he
He's
will.
already in custody?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So on the day of the verdict, the judge stepped him back on that day, and he's been in ever since. All right. So he had a bond hearing today, and in that case, Mr. Bynum was held. He will be getting a mental evaluation, but he's been held without bond.
Do you have concerns that he's going to be competent to stand trial?
You know, it's really too early to tell. What we have to look at is whether or not someone can appreciate what they have done, and then can understand and aid their counsel in trying the case, you know, in their case. And so at this time, it's just really too early to make that decision. Obviously, the incident itself was horrific. However, we're at the preliminary stages.
Can you say what prompted the judge to order that evaluation?
You know, I was not in the courtroom at that time, but I can venture to guess because of the type of weapon that was used, perhaps things that he said and how he presented may have caused the judge to believe that he needed to have an evaluation before moving forward. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you.